Good morning. Welcome to Escoffier Online. My name is Chef Caesar. Today I'm going to be making a shepherd's pie. This dish early on was in early cookbooks. It was made in the means of using leftovers, like from a roast. It could be beef or lamb. That way they would utilize everything. So they would cut up the leftover meat the next day and make a sauce with it with some vegetables, and also they would like top it with some potatoes. In the early cookbooks, you would see they would put a layer on the bottom of the dish too as well. So it'd be like a pie, like we do now, like a sweet pie, but this is a savory dish. We're going to start with cooking some, I got some lamb here mixed with some beef. You can do either or. This dish was also called cottage pie, back then, because it was peasant food for people, like the poor people who live in the countryside. And now we use, like in England, they call this shepherd's pie, because we reference, shepherds taking care of the sheep, and when it's made with lamb, they call it shepherd's pie, but, differently, it's pretty much the same thing, except they change the meat. And you can also make it with like chunks of like raw like lamb. You can cut it into little pieces instead of using ground. But today I'm going to use some ground lamb and mix with some half and half with beef, because sometimes lamb tends to be a little fat. If it's too fatty when you cook it, you want to drain some of the oil. And I'm going to show you that. So we're going to start with putting a little olive oil here. Also, before you start cooking this, you got to get your potatoes going, because we're going to top this with some mashed potatoes. And back here I got my potatoes cooking, so they're going to be cooking at the same time. So once I have this stew cooking in the pan, I'm going to finish the potatoes that way it's done at the same time. So we're going to start by browning our meat here. And make sure you like break up the meat when you're cooking it, because otherwise you're going to end up with some big like chunks. You want to break it up, that way it's nice and we want to brown it really nice before we add the rest of the ingredients. Okay. Here I got some celery I'm going to cut up too. I got my carrots cut up. It's a fairly simple dish to make, and you can make this a day before, and it's going to taste even better. You can serve this as a family meal. You can bake this in a big dish or individually, like I'm going to do today. We want to dice this very small. Okay. So you have to break it up. If you don't, it's going to cook into like big chunks, and you don't want that. You want to have a nice, smooth mixture without any big chunks of meat that sticks together when it cooks. Okay. I'm going to finish cutting up my celery over here. Okay, now we put it aside for right now. We're going to finish cooking our meat here. If you guys have any questions, please let me know along the way. I like when you guys ask questions. It's nice. As you can see, it's going to cook rather quickly, so turn down my potatoes back here. As you can see, there's a lot of liquid coming out of here. It's going to be quite a bit, fat too, because lamb is pretty fatty. And depends, the beef too. If you use like a leaner beef, you won't have as much too. You can, do an 80-20, 90-10. But you want some of the fat to, have some flavor too. That way the dish won't be too dry. Even though we're putting some tomato products in here and some, red wine as well. Okay, I'm going to take some of this out of here. Just take my ladle. There's a lot of fat in here. There we go. Now we're going to let it brown a little more. I'm going to add some black pepper. Some salt here. Check my potatoes back here, make sure they're not overdone. See a little more. Even though I took some fat out here, you can see there's some liquid left, so you can have enough fat for browning the meat. And I got about 2 cloves of garlic chopped real fine. I also got my onions here I'm going to be adding a little bit. Some real fine diced carrots. Some tomato paste. I got some red wine I'm going to use. And you can use any kind of red wine. Make sure it's a decent wine, even though it's for cooking. You want to, have a nice wine. You don't want to throw something in there that you wouldn't drink, because you're going to eventually eat this, and the flavor is really going to, make a difference as well. I also got some beef juice over here, some Worcestershire sauce, and I got some more herbs over here. I'm going to be doing some bay leaves, and also some fresh thyme is going to go on there. Okay, I'm going to add garlic in there. If you don't like lamb, you can just use regular beef. It works fine. If you have like cook a prime rib and got some leftovers, you can, you know, make a sandwich, or you can make something like this. That way you're not wasting any product. Okay, I'm gonna have my onions here. Cooking for a little bit. And this is a very classic Irish dish. If you go to an Irish pub, you wanna hopefully see this because it's really popular. Even nowadays, they still have it on the menu. It's a really nice, popular dish that the Irish still make. And you can tell right away whether it's lamb or beef. I mean, you can have the gamey smell of lambs. It's right away when you get it. You can even says in the menu, you know, it's lamb or beef, or you can even ask. But again, most of the time you can tell right away. You can, when you cook it, it smells, you know, a little bit different. Okay. I'm gonna add my carrots in here. As you can see, they're really fine diced. That way they cook quick. They don't take too long to cook. I'm also gonna add my celery. I got some tomato paste, about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste I'm adding here. We're going to fry this up a little bit before we add the wine. Let's mix tomato paste throughout the meat. Now we're going to add some white wine, about half a cup. If you want to add a little more, it's fine, but half a cup will do to glaze our pan here. There we go. We're going to let the wine evaporate a little bit before we add the beef stock in here. I'm going to add my herbs here. I got 2 bay leaves and a couple sprigs of fresh thyme there. Beef stock is going in now. We're going to let it cook for a little bit. Next, I'm going to add some of my tomato, crushed tomatoes I got here too. We're going to let it simmer for a while. Okay. And I got some fresh peas, but we're going to wait until the end. Right before we take it out of here, we're going to add them. Otherwise, if you put them in right now, they're going to get too mushy. I got some frozen peas that work fine. They don't have to be fresh. I just took them out of their freezer a little while ago, so they're like pretty much ready to go. And we're going to let it simmer for a while here. In the meantime, I'm going to start making our mashed potatoes that we're going to use to top our shepherd's pie with. But make sure you keep an eye on the stew. You don't want it to burn either. Okay, let's see if we need to put a little more salt or pepper. Let's go for right now. We want to wait. Maybe a little more black pepper I'm going to add. Starting off salt. And it's always to make it a day before, and use it next day. Heat it up because you're gonna, the flavor is gonna be much nicer. It's like anything else. When we make soups, they always work the same way. Okay, now we're gonna turn my attention back to my mashed potatoes. I want to see if the potatoes are done yet. And yes, they are. They're nice and soft. Come out, which means they're done. So we're gonna drain the potatoes back here. I also want to heat up my cream. Okay. It's very important that you dry them up really good. You don't want to end up with some mushy potatoes at the end. Okay. And I want to pass them right through the sieve. If you have a food mill, it works much better. But if you don't, use a fine sieve and you're going to push them right through. This is going to give you a very nice smooth potatoes, and this is how you can make them. So it's drain them really good. Put some at a time. If you use a flexible rubber spatula to push them through, it works better than the spoon. So you can do this. Look at that. They go right through without any effort at all. Look. And this is going to break up any lumps in there. It's going to be really nice and smooth when you have when you're making mashed potatoes. It doesn't take too long, See, it's very easy. Look at that. Just keep an eye on this too. Add some more. Okay. It's out of the way here. It's very important when you cut the potatoes to boil them, you cook them the same size. Try to get them the same size as possible. That way when you boil the potatoes, they don't cook uneven. You want to get them all cooked at the same time. Otherwise, if you have big ones and little ones, the little ones are going to break down and the big ones are going to still raw when you like, try to get them out. So you really have to work on your knife skills when you do that. Try to get them as even as possible. Okay. They're going to be really smooth and nice and without any lumps. See, very quick. Now you want to scrape the bottom of them. Whoops. There. There we go. That's out of the way here. I'm gonna turn my broiler on because I'm gonna be baking this dish over here. So we're gonna get it going here. I got my cream ready back here. Okay, look at that. Let's clean up my cutting board. Okay. Before I move on, if you clean as you go, it's gonna be really easy at the end to like clean up the whole kitchen. So get into the habit of doing this, make a clean up as you go. So we're gonna add the butter here. This is gonna, the butter is nice and soft, so make sure you take it out a little bit before you're gonna start cooking. That way it gets nice and soft before. Okay. I'm gonna whip them really nice to aerate them so they're nice and fluffy. We're pumping some air in the potatoes. Okay, I'm also going to add a little cream here. I got my cream nice and hot. I made a mess back here too. Be careful. Okay. And you can use regular milk if you don't want to use heavy cream. Okay. Look at this, smelling really good. And be careful, even sometimes the recipe calls for so much cream, you don't want to add everything all at once. Add half of it and then kind of take a look at it, because sometimes if you don't drain the potatoes well enough, you're going to end up with some really runny potatoes. You don't want that, so that's a good way to kind of check potatoes so that way they don't end up to be too runny. When I add a little white pepper, I always use white pepper when making mashed potatoes. That way you don't get this spots from the black pepper. I mean, you end up with some really nice white potatoes all the time. I want to see if they need a little more salt. I added some salt to the water, but still you have to taste them anyways. A little more. Close this before it makes me sneeze. And here we have nice whipped potatoes. Now we're gonna pair it. And this is almost done. The vegetables should be nice and soft. You don't want them to get mushy either. You want to have a nice texture too as well. Especially if you wanna, preheat it again. If you're gonna save it like for tomorrow, let's say, you don't wanna end up with some mushy vegetables in the stew. Okay, now we have our mashed potatoes done. I'm gonna fill my pastry bag, and you don't have to. You can just put the potatoes on top of the dish with a spatula, but I wanna make them a little nicer. I got my pastry bag. You can just, if you don't have one, like I say, you can just put this over the top of the stew with, not the stew, I should say, there we go. Small bag. There you go. I'm going to put this to the side here. Now we're ready to top our shepherd's pie with some nice mashed potatoes. Okay, and this is pretty much done. Turn it off here. Okay, let's take our, make sure we don't serve this in the dish. Same thing with the bay leaves. You want to pull them off because you don't want to be chewing that. Okay. Okay, now you can either make this as a family meal, put this in a big baking dish and top it with some potatoes. You can make it individual like you would do in a restaurant. In the old days, they would normally layer the bottom of the dish with some potatoes too, but I'm just going to put them on the top right now. Okay. As you can see, it's got a nice sauce. The thickness is nice, not too runny. Okay. Uh-oh. Don't want that. And it smells really good. Okay. You know what? I gotta put a piece in here. That's the one thing I didn't do. Going back in there, never mind. That's the one thing I almost forgot to do, and I had them right in front of me. Oops. Just rinse real quick. And that won't take too long. You just want to pretty much heat them up. There you go. Look at that. It gives a nice color to the dish too, with the green, red. There was something missing there. Vegetables are nice and al dente, so that's how you want them. You don't want them too mushy. Okay, now we're ready to plate our dish again. Let's shut it off here. Look at that. Much better, huh? See? That's a lot of color. I knew there was something missing in there. There you go. I'm gonna flat the top so we can put the potatoes in there. There you go. Now we're going to pop in a little broiler here. Hope it's not too high. There you go. We're going to brown this so the top gets nice and brown. If you got an oven, put it in a broiler, and you can do it that way too. But I got a little oven that I can use, a little salamander type of thing, and it goes really quick. As you guys can see, it's very easy to make and very quick. So we're going to keep an eye on my potatoes because they're pretty high up there. I don't want them to burn. I just want to give them a nice caramelization at the top, nice and brown. Some recipes call for egg yolks like a Dan. That's going to help to, get the potatoes nice and brown too. It's going to help to get them a nice brown colors like egg yolks. Work really well for that. But I didn't use any egg yolks today, so. It's going to take a little while in my little oven here. Normally you have a big one that's really quick, but this one I have to turn it around. But it's going to work anyways, I promise you. As you can see, it was very quick to make, not too much work. As long as you have all your prep done ahead of time, putting the dishes together is really easy. Like I tell you guys, you always have to get your mise en place ready, and before you start the cooking process, and then you just put it together. And it's really simple. As you can see, it doesn't have to be complicated. Cooking can be really fun as long as you prepare yourself ahead of time. Put on broil here. Bear with me. Almost done here. It's taking a little longer, but let's get in there. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I don't want to take this out. It's taking a little too long, and I don't want to have you guys wait too long, but the idea is there, so you want to make sure you take a towel to take it out of there, because it's going to be really hot. And see, we're starting to get brown. If I have a bigger oven, it'd be much quicker, but this one's a little tiny. But the idea is there. It's going to start to brown like that. You want to brown all the way to a nice golden brown, and that's going to be a nice crispy texture. And I want to thank you for being here with me this morning. See you next week with something very interesting. And thank you very much, and I'll see you again next week.